Salt thickness, 1.2 milliliter. Skin temp, 39.8 degrees C. The air doesn't move, but it presses. Cold as a tomb's exhale, thick with the ghost of incense that never fully faded. He steps into the salt. Each footfall crushes granules into powder, and releasing a dry mineral scent, faintly metallic beneath the rot of old antiseptic and the sour tang of wet wool left to stagnate in lockers. The freight elevator's final groan still echoes behind him, vibrating through the soles of his shoes, up his calves and settling low in his pelvis like an unspoken question. He doesn't look back. Ahead, the suspended body floats, 6 inches above the fused glass mosaic. Copper filaments embedded like veins beneath translucent amber, still humming with residual current. Her bare feet hang perfectly parallel to the floor, toes slightly curled as if she'd just stepped off a sun-warmed stone. Arms outstretched, palms open, fingers splayed toward the vaulted ceiling, where 7 symbols pulse in slow, deliberate sequence. First a spiraled spiral, then the broken cross, then the twin crescents kissing, each mark carved into concrete with surgical precision, and now glowing faintly blue at their cores. Her skin, not pale, not alive in the usual way. It glows from within, not by reflected light, not by fluorescence, but as if her marrow had been replaced with slow-burning quartz. Faint traceries of veins map across her forearms, throat, cheeks. But these are not blood vessels. They are channels, threads of something older. Something that remembers being part of a whole before it learned to call it itself I. Her breath doesn't rise and fall. It is drawn. Each inhalation pulls heat from the chamber, not in waves, but in precise, silent tugs, stealing warmth from the air around her, from the gurney wheels still wet with last victim's blood, from the stethoscope dangling uselessly beside the woolen sock, pinned to the wall. The exhale doesn't dissipate. It crystallizes. A single exhalation, a symbol forms mid-air, sharp-edged, angular, unlike any glyph in the FBI's linguistic database, and then drops like frozen ash onto the salt path beneath her, embedding itself with a sound like a needle settling into felt. He watches one land, then another. By his third step inward, he is breathing harder than she is. The salt beneath him begins to shift, not from pressure, but from accumulation. Symbols multiply. Each new mark pulses once, thrice, then goes dark, leaving behind a permanent impression in the granules. Like names carved into tombstone after death has already claimed the body. He reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out the file. Doje case note. 714. The Unmaking. Photographs of 7 victims, each found mid-meditation, spine straight as a plumb line, hands resting on knees, eyes closed in perfect stillness. No signs of struggle, no defensive wounds, no stolen jewelry, no forced entry, no forensic fingerprints beyond their own. Only the symbols, each victim inscribed with 3 unique glyphs. One across the sternum, one along the spine's crest, another over the third eye, and always the warmth. Body temperatures hovering between 39.5 degrees C and 40.1 degrees C long after rigor had set in, long after the ambient air dropped below freezing. Temperature readings taken at intervals, 2 hours post-mortem, 6, 12:24. The heat never faded, never wavered. He flipped to the last page. The prime suspect. No arrest record, no birth certificate, no known residence. Only one constant, always present within 50 meters of every victim in the 48 hours preceding death. Surveillance logs from parking lots, bus stops, cafes near hospitals. A figure in a long, dark coat, always alone, always watching, never interacting. A woman. Her name was written on the last line in ink so faded it seemed to have been burned into paper, rather than applied. Elira Voss. He'd seen her once before, at his own suspension hearing, sitting at the back of the room, quiet as dust, eyes fixed not on him but on the wall behind him, on a framed print of neural pathways in a fetal brain. She had not flinched when his name was called. When the chief prosecutor described his obsessive compartmentalization and failure to account for emotional residue, she nodded, not with agreement, but recognition. She knew what he'd lost. He didn't move toward her yet. Instead, he walked the salt path, passed the stethoscope still warm to the touch, and stopped before the woolen sock pinned to the wall. The thread stitching its heel closed was silver, not metallic thread, not embroidery floss. It glowed faintly, a quiet luminescence that pulsed in sync with the symbols above. He reached for it. Fingertips brushed fabric, soft from years of use, frayed where small fingers had tugged at it during childhood nights. And then he saw, beneath the sock's heel, stitched into the wool like secret scripture, "I loved you, so I unmade you." No signature, no date, just that. He pressed his thumb to the stitching, and for a breath, longer than any exhale from the floating woman, he felt something give inside him. Not memory. Recognition. A scent rose then, not incense, not antiseptic, but wet earth after rain on a hillside he hadn't thought of in 22 years. The smell of his mother's garden. Before the accident. Before the silence. Before the spreadsheets began to replace her voice. He turned slowly, and there she was, floating, still, eyes closed, but not asleep. The ribbons, 7 translucent filaments, each no thicker than a spider's dragline, stretching upward into shadow above, are not light. They are echoes, each one fraying at the terminus like a dream recalled too often, until its edges blur. He watches as one lifts slightly on a current only it can feel, and for just an instant the filament flickers, and he sees himself, not as he is now, gaunt-faced, ink-stained hands, the ghost of a tie around his neck, but younger, 22, in a lab coat too big, holding a coffee cup with both hands, laughing at something one of his colleagues said. He blinks. The ribbon returns to stillness, but now the others are shifting. One curls toward him, like it knows his shape. Another trembles, like someone reaching for your hand across a darkened room. He steps closer. Salt crunches underfoot. The air grows heavier, colder. His breath now comes out in visible plumes. Not because he's cold, but because the chamber is siphoning warmth from him now, too. He feels it draining. Heat from his palms, from his temples, from deep within his ribs. Not pain, not loss. Surrender. He stops a foot from her. The glow of her skin illuminates the hollows of his own face. Shadows beneath his eyes. The thin scar along his jawline from an old knife wound he once called proof I'm real. He lifts his right hand. Slowly, deliberately. Not to touch, not to test, to enter. His palm presses against her sternum. Skin yields, not with resistance, not like flesh under pressure, but as if the boundary between them had been waiting. The surface softens, becomes translucent, then dissolves, like warm wax meeting flame, and his fingers sink inward, past dermis, past fascia, through the quiet rhythm of a heart that doesn't need air to beat. He feels it. The organ beneath, not muscle, not tissue, but a lattice of filaments woven with strands of blue luminescence, identical to the hair dangling from the emergency light. He curves his fingers around it, and inside, there is no cavity, no blood, no chambers, only space. And within that space, reflected in shimmering distortion, is his own face, not as he is now, but younger, a child, 8 years old, hunched over a broken wind-up train on the floor of their basement apartment, hands sticky with glue, tears hot against his cheeks. The train's axle snapped clean, one wheel spinning freely while the other remained stubbornly frozen. He remembers, I can fix it if I hold it tight enough. His mother had knelt beside him then, said nothing, just rested her palm over his and whispered into his hair, you don't need to keep holding, baby. You just have to let go of the idea that you're the one who has to be whole. He'd pulled away then, broke the train anyway, screamed for days until the silence set in. Now, inside her chest, he sees it again. The moment, the glue, the snapped axle, the tears. And as he watches, the child lifts his head, not toward him, but through him, eyes wide with recognition. The heart beneath his fingers stops beating, not from death, from completion. He draws back, slowly, and as his hand withdraws, the gap in her skin does not close. It opens, widens, becomes a mirror. And through it, he sees not only himself as child, but all 7 victims, each of them alive, not corpses, not memories, living within her chest like stars trapped behind glass. A man who once played violin for strangers on subway platforms. An elderly librarian who cataloged every book by emotional resonance, not author or Dewey Decimal. The teenage girl who burned her journal every birthday, writing only 1 sentence each year. I was here, all of them, present, breathing. And in the center of it all, the woman's voice, not heard with ears, but felt in bone. They didn't die to become gods. They died so you'd stop being afraid to disappear. He looks up. Her eyes open, not to see him, but past him, through him, into the hollow where his own identity had been carved over decades of classification, filing, dissecting, ordering. And when her gaze reaches him, not as a man, and not as an analyst, but as the boy who once begged time to stay still, he feels it. The tear. On his forearm, a hairline split running from wrist to elbow, clean, silent, no blood, only silver filaments unfolding beneath the skin, pulsing in rhythm with each of her ribbons above. They rise now, one by one. 7 luminous strands peel away from her and drift toward him, not floating, as if carried by wind, but pulled, drawn to his open palm like moths to a lantern that never burns out. One lands, then another. He closes his hand gently, and when he does, the cracked obsidian stone, resting at the spiral's heart beside the rusted brass key, lifts from the salt. It hovers between them, slow, reverent. The fracture in its center glows bright enough to cast shadows on his cheeks. She doesn't move, doesn't speak, only breathes. And with each exhalation, symbols detach from the floor like petals and rise, but into his chest. They press into him, through his ribs, past his lungs, against his sternum. And when they settle, he feels them, not as marks, as names. Each one, a soul he once labeled, victim. Each one, now part of the architecture of his silence. The stone trembles, then shatters. 1,000 shards, glittering, blue-tinged, humming softly, fall like ash over both their shoulders. He doesn't brush them off. Let them stay. The salt beneath him begins to glow, not with reflected light, but with its own internal rhythm. The symbols, embedded within pulse, now not in sequence, but as one, a single, sustained tone only the dead can hear. Above, the ceiling cracks, thin, hairline fractures spidering across concrete like veins of a waking god. He doesn't look up, doesn't reach for his radio, doesn't call for backup or request containment. He simply lowers his head, still standing inside the circle of salt, still holding her memory in the hollows of his hands and still feeling. Through the split along his forearm, the quiet thrum of 1,000 hearts beating as one. The teacup on the windowsill, the cracked porcelain and indigo glazed, handle chipped, steams anew. No steam from heat, from presence. And then, quietly, as if answering an unasked question, the brass key on the floor begins to turn itself.